another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Ari.
I'm Jesi.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Josh. And today we are going to be going over an Edgar Allan Poe poem for the very first time on our show. This is episode number 425. 425th work. Technically, we've done over even more works because of our patron-exclusive discussions. We're going over The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
And we got our little pal Raven back here.
And Penny Waffles.
And Penny Waffles, the dog.
And this mammoth of collection.
And my hat.
Complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe. A lot to talk about. And Ari, you have a discussion starter?
I do have a discussion starter. I chose this poem for a couple of reasons. The first reason, obviously, being it's episode 425, and we were crazy enough not to do it yet. I know you're probably all screaming at us saying, "Where's the Raven? Where's the Raven?" Well, you finally found it. Here we are, all together, discussing Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, one of the best poems ever written, in my opinion. But my question is, what do you think the general idea of this poem is? I tend to think it has to do with the inability to be able to move on from, a death or an event. That's kind of just how I kind of see it. I was curious what everyone else kind of thought.
I see it as the how despair can creep in on you when you're not ready for it. I feel like it works the same like depression, because he mentions, he was like, oh yeah, I miss her, but then when the bird is actually in the house and there, he's significantly more so depressed and despairing.
I feel the conversation with the Raven is one of the most interesting pieces of literature. Just the way that he writes it, the words he uses, the way he kind of intertwines it into the poem, and the nevermore factor, of course.
First of all, we've gone over 424 works that I think it's just great to have so many opportunities to go over so many different works. But back to The Raven, which I'm glad we are going over it. We've gone over a few of Edgar Allan Poe's works on this channel.
The Telltale Heart was one of them, I remember.
Telltale Heart, Cask of Amontillado, Manuscript Found in a Bottle.
And we might be doing another one soon. But
as far as The Raven is, which is, I've read it at open mic nights. My favorite was listening to it at Lair State Park. They do an Edgar Allan Poe presentation for around October. And Helen McKenna will dress up first as his partner, and then she dresses up as Edgar Allan Poe and recites the poem. The way her entrance is just quite something, too. This is a narrative poem, which means that there's a great deal of story to it. You could definitely see that reflection that Poe is telling a story that it does coordinate a lot of the piece compared to a lot of others that are just more about words and maybe philosophy. But this is a story that flows in poetic verse.
And that might be why I enjoy it so much, is because it is a narrative.
Very appropriate shirt.
Is that from the Edgar Allan Poe?
No, it is from Salem.
Oh, okay.
Also a big place for Edgar Allan Poe stuff. Sorry.
Interesting, even because
it glows in the dark.
I equate Philadelphia and Baltimore more with Poe.
Yeah, well, all the
Baltimore
witchy
Ravens.
people go to Salem too, so naturally there's a lot of Edgar Allan Poe
Stone
stuff
them
there.
with stones.
As far as the poem itself is concerned, the speaker is very much someone that I'm familiar with in Poe's other works. Someone that's very pressed to the point that they are wallowing in their sadness.
In their solitude.
And it's you have that knocking on the door, and this raven comes flying in, and all it says is nevermore. But it leads the speaker to think about his life's choices and his circumstances
and what has happened with his lost love.
And what comes out of it.
I think it's also, a great kind of depiction of the descent into madness, very similar to Telltale Heart.
Oh, yeah.
Is the raven actually saying nevermore, or is he slowly descending and he's hearing that and he's feeling like it's mocking him? And, is all of that actually happening? Is there a bird even in his house?
Exactly, is there even a raven there?
Yeah, or is he just so wallowed in despair that he's hearing things he's seeing.
There's a point that I wanted to make about it, but I want to let Dan...
Yeah, please.
Okay, so,
Yeah, go ahead.
like, yeah, I believe it's about despair and, like, dealing with, like, a death. But also, I feel the thing is, like, there's also, a hint of survivor's guilt. He should have been the one that died, but the thing is, she was the one that died. He's going crazy. Why am I the one that's left alive? Why is she dead? You know, kind of like all that stuff.
I think it's very obvious from what the poem is writing that this person does not have the most sanest of mindsets at the time. So I think it's quite interesting that you bring up survivor's guilt because, I mean, survivor's guilt is a very big cause of depression. You know, people just, the trauma, it's really hard for them to function afterwards.
Well, not only that, I mean, obviously he has this very deep love for Lenore, so even if it isn't necessarily survivor's guilt, like, what if she died in an accident that he had no part of and wasn't in? It's just, why did you take her from this planet and not me instead?
Yeah, we don't really know how she died. Too.
Exactly.
No,
he
we
doesn't
don't.
touch on that. All it is that, you know, longing for her and obviously how much he misses her and how her lack of presence is upsetting.
It's affecting his mental state.
Yeah.
I almost think that, in a way, the Raven is also a little bit about bargaining. Oh, well, the Raven comes in and you're just, like, talking to him and it's like, oh, I miss her so much, there's got to be some way to bring her back, but no. You just sit there wallowing in your own depression.
Well, they even say that that's one of the
It's
five
the
stages of grief is
yeah.
bargaining. And
I definitely see that in this poem, as well as the sadness and a little bit of a little touch of anger, too.
Something that interested me was I was doing some background research because back in high school I watched a lecture that Elliot Engel did, televised or in a video, about Edgar Allan Poe's life. One thing that he brought up was that he met Charles Dickens when he came to America in the 1840s, and Charles Dickens had a pet raven named Grip. Grip was hatched in 1839, could talk, was pretty smart and talented. But it was sent to like a barn on their household because Grip was aggressive with the kids and with other strangers. Grip died from lead poisoning in 1841, just 2 years old.
Mm.
He ended up getting another raven also named Grip, but he showed the picture to Edgar Allan Poe, and he himself wrote about Grip in Barnaby Rudge. Had a raven that was named Grip and did very similar things. There is speculation that Edgar Allan Poe was inspired by Grip when writing this poem.
I mean, it would make sense. Yeah.
Because he also he was a critic too, and he wrote a review about Barnaby Rudge. Like the aspect of the raven, wasn't so much into the mystery aspect, which he was.
Which is kind of funny because this
mystery.
is like a kind of a mystery poem. What does the raven represent? Why is it in his house? Why is it saying nevermore? Like
He's very much a mystery writer.
he is.
Mysterious.
Murder at the
Mysterious,
Rue
yes.
Morgue.
I've heard of like some theories of like what the Raven actually is, and one of the ones I think is most interesting is that the Raven is actually like an angel or a demon or something like that.
That's
I've read that
I
too,
got that. I got that drive from it.
Yeah,
as
because
well.
like it was so like both. So I don't know which one I agree with more, but the thing is both of them kind of work because there's a part where he's bargaining with it. Who makes bargains with people for lost souls?
True.
Kind of the devil, you know? So the thing is, it could be that thing is the demon being like, if you do this, that thing is, I'll bring her back, or something like that. Or it's an angel telling him the thing is that, move on. If the thing is, like, she's gone. Like, she's never going to be alive.
Yeah, there are a lot of different
Talk about
ways you can
angels.
take this poem
Yeah, which
and
I
look
think,
at it in many
yeah.
different ways. I kind of look at how intelligent ravens, crows, how intelligent they are. You have someone who's like trying to reach out to it. It's like, is it possible that they might be feeling your grief? They might empathize with your grief. It's a bit of a stretch, but animals can be intelligent.
I have books and I want to read up on them too, about ravens, crows, magpies. The fact that the raven was the one knocking on the door, it reminds me of, we have a crow on our property. Then again, every crow that comes on our property is named Poe. We had one particular Poe, the crow, that
The crow.
knew that he was going to get fed. He would get pork roll or meat. He would tap on the window in the kitchen and pretty much try to keep pace so that he didn't, because it almost felt like he was about ready to fall. He had to pretty much maneuver himself, but yet at the same time let my mother know, or let whoever was in the house know, that he wanted to eat. It kind of reminded me of the Windex crows that
Yeah.
fly into the house, but that's what it kind, because they do have that ability to knock.
Yes.
So when I thought
and the
about
crow said, "Oh yes, I'd like some food," and you said, "Nevermore."
Also, do you know what Gathering of Crows is called?
A murder.
Okay.
Wasn't that on the
Quizzo too.
Quizzo? You're asking the person who gave you that information.
wrote the question.
Hold
Got
on,
that question.
hold on, one more. What is a group of zebras called?
That I don't know.
I don't know.
A dazzle.
Oh, I know a group of lions is called a pride.
Yeah. A group of monkeys is called the Congress. That's actually true.
I know.
But the thing is,
And it's always funny.
But
Anyways.
the thing with the Raven is it really is, if you're going away from the content and going more towards the writing, it's spectacular writing. Like,
Yes.
some of these words like are so
Beguiling.
beguiling. There's synonyms for things that you could use such a simple word for, and it's just the most
I had to look up what
complicated
some of the
thing.
words meant,
Yeah.
honestly.
And that's
That's what's
I love.
wonderful about it.
And that's what I love about it, because it's so sophisticated like using these words instead of the simpler terms just makes it so much more eerie, I think.
Yeah, instead of saying knocking at my door, instead of rapping at
Rapping.
my door.
Yeah,
Tapping.
and it does, it kind of instills that uncomfortableness. Like if it were one of us just sitting here, we want to describe like, oh, there's a weird knocking. It's like
All
there's
of
a
Edgar,
rapping, a
all of
tapping
Edgar
at
Allan
the door.
Poe's poems and stories have that unsettling feeling
Exactly,
to it.
and he does such a great job with his words, making it that Victorian sophistication that's
Master
also
of
dark
the
and
macabre.
daring,
Yeah.
So
He is a pioneer in horror fiction and mystery, even science fiction, arguably speaking.
he nails it.
And
with,
this one really can go in any direction.
yeah,
Like, there's so many directions, so many. I'm sure if you asked all four of us what the poem was about, we'd all have four different answers.
probably.
And this is just a great poem to read for your own pleasure, read aloud at an open mic or with friends.
It's so fun to read aloud. I don't know if any I know this is I'm with you. It's one of my favorite poems, if not my favorite poem. And just like when you read it out loud and really engage it, it's just so much fun to read.
Even the first line hooks you. Wow.
Yes.
Once
hooks
upon
you
a
right into
midnight
the
dreary,
story.
while I pondered weak and weary.
It's I don't know. I feel like this poem, like you said, it has a hook better than most novels I've read, and it does it in 5 lines, and it
Got a
takes
better
the novel
hook than
like
Secret
4
of the
chapters.
Pink Pokemon.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Do we have anything else we wanted to go over?
Can I rate it anyways? 6
Yeah,
stars, 7 stars.
I'd give it like 4.5, 5 stars for sure.
I'll definitely give it a 4 stars.
I'd give it 5 stars if we rated it.
Yeah,
Penny Waffles gives it 5 stars because she wants to eat the bird.
I do want to say one more thing, and this is kind of a question for everybody, is that have you ever felt that you've been in a situation like what this character is going through in real life, like this depressive phase where you feel like you've lost something and you feel like you're not going to be able to get, because I will say that sometimes in my life I feel just like the character in this poem, where I feel everything just feels lost and hopeless, and like you're questioning yourself, and you're well, in this case questioning the Raven.
I would say so, but not in the maniacal way.
No. I mean, not necessarily by the way it's written. I
That
mean, just
kind
the
of-
general
That
situation.
despair and
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah,
I would say yeah, but like not to the degree as the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
this is more like a horror madness kind of macabre kind of thing.
No, I think, like in my personal opinion, I feel like the Raven is the representation of despair and death and depression and darkness that's coming in and swallowing him up. And while I've had, and I think everybody's had their own moments of despair and depression, this is a different level.
This almost seems. I know this may sound a little bit ridiculous, but like I almost feel at the end of this poem, right after he finishes the last verse, like this could be easily like a suicide note of some kind. Almost. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it feels like it's heading in that direction.
It's
That's
funny
how dark it is.
because I don't, when I read the poem, I don't necessarily think about like that I agree that I feel like he could if he continued on.
Yeah.
But I don't know, whenever I read this poem at the very end, I just picture him sitting there like a mad person just staring, unblinking, and the raven just over top of his head mocking him. And he's just, what is that Fatal Attraction where she's just sitting there turning on and off the light? Just kind of
Just
that kind
lost.
of crazy,
Lost.
just lost, and his mind is gone, and that's what I always picture.
I love how you mentioned that because now I remember that scene because I saw that movie.
Where it's like ding,
How do you
that's what I picture him.
How do you picture the raven saying nevermore? Because some people make it sounds parrot-like, where I think it's more eerie and
That's how
humanistic.
I,
Like,
yeah.
It could be it could be like a fish crow, because
like
fish crows
Edgar Allan
literally
Poe.
when they make their sounds, fish crows go That's
So-
what they sound
not
like.
even like that. It more so nevermore.
So that whenever I read it out loud, that's how I say it. That eerie kind of human voice that's almost startling and just nevermore.
I kind of said like
And-
as ethereal is how I imagine it.
Yeah.
sounding. Yeah.
Like, and because he comes back from it as he's startled, because it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess if you're not expecting a bird to talk, you're always going to be startled.
Yeah, that's
But I
true.
feel like what makes it startling to his character is that it not just came into my house, it said nevermore. Like, this eerie
A
kind
very
of
grisly type of way.
Grisly, yeah, like
Poor
dark.
raven.
So.
Nevermore.
I remember going to a pet shop up in Tom's River. It's not up anymore. It did birds. It was strictly birds, and the owner had her pet birds in the back because that's what my dad sells pet supplies for a living. We were back there talking with the owner. One of them just said hello to you while looking at you. Did that twice, and then the other one was able to respond like somebody to a conversation where they made the comment and there was, what?
Birds are freaky, man, the way they can talk like that.
Because
It's
technically
so cool.
birds of that, like a parrot, the reason they talk is because they're mimicking the sounds around them
Yeah.
in order to
And honestly,
protect themselves.
if you think about it, making eye contact with a bird is a scary thing, because birds normally, because the way their eyes are, they don't look like they're looking at you. So when they turn their head, they just look straight at you. It's like, whew.
Not only that,
Yeah, like
you know,
owls, like they can't move their eyes at all, so they gotta like turn their head.
Owls
like,
move their heads like,
360. They can move
Yeah.
it all the way around, 360.
Usually,
well, not quite 360, but
herbivores usually have their eyes toward either at the sides or toward the sides. Carnivores usually have their eyes directly forward.
we have a
Yeah.
good number of
I'm just saying, if you turn your
hawks
head
and
all the way
eagles.
around, and things look the
Producer
opposite
and a
direction.
consumer.
Yeah, we have a lot of like hawks and eagles and very large owls in our area, like that just sometimes hang out in my backyard. And man, these and that's not even mentioning the crows and like the ravens that come in that are just as big, and they just come in. You see them land and just dig through a squirrel's nest, and I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't need to know what they're doing.
Squirrels.
They're doing something very unpleasant for the squirrels. But
I'm not.
yeah, birds are terrifying.
I'm not sure how many of you have read the full Old Testament. I think the raven is interestingly symbolic in this situation, because when in the story of Noah, before he sends out the dove, the first thing he sends out to try and find land is a raven.
Mhm.
And the raven, when he leaves, he doesn't come back. It's like an animal that was sent out and disappears. Where does it go? Where does it disappear to? In a way, the poem, it's almost like a sense of not just depression but emptiness, like
I
being
almost see it
lost.
as like a mirroring of it, because now
Like
here
you're
he
talking to
has a
yourself.
raven. You sent off a raven that never comes back. Here he gets a raven that won't go away.
Yeah, it won't go away,
And
because
it's
at
a
the
nice
end it says
mirror.
it's still there. It's still in italics. It's still there.
Yep,
Very clearly in italics, that one part.
that's interesting that you bring it up.
I would like to make my way through the entire Bible, both Old and New Testament.
I don't think I would have it in me to do that.
It's achievable.
It's good stories.
I'm just saying, I don't know, really religious text is not a thing for me.
But it's just interesting that the raven, and as an animal, after this poem came out, is an extremely iconic, and because of its color probably too, it's now iconic for, depression and death
And witchy things.
I mean, even in the
Horror.
when was that with the plague? The masks they wore looked like raven. So, I mean, they associated with it all the time. No, I don't know if that was pre or post Poe, but I think it was pre. Because it was like 16... It was like...
1310 was the one that the Black Plague happened.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's pre-Poe, and I was thinking...
was
I was thinking of,
1800s.
like, 1666.
Edgar Allan Poe was born in 1809.
Yeah, so...
And he died in 1849.
It's interesting that he uses the Raven because it's been used previously as, like, symbols of darkness and stuff like that. So, and obviously
I mean,
illness.
it is an ink blackbird. You really can't not, associate ink black with. I mean, something white is never going to really represent the darkness of death.
I can't
so
imagine
it kind of
a
makes
dove
sense.
being in the spell.
Yeah.
It's
It
the
wouldn't
dove.
work with any other bird.
Yeah, imagine if this was called Dove. It'd be a
no,
weird story.
It'd be way different.
I mean, dove is
Quote
part
the
of
dove,
peace.
use your bar of soap.
Yeah.
Oh.
Eat the chocolate.
Now you're making me think of Warhol and that painting with all the
Andy.
the Last
Oh.
Supper with all the
Yeah.
branding.
Hey, gotta love Andy.
Anybody have any final thoughts?
Amazing poem.
Wonderful.
agree.
I don't have anything else to say. I think I've gone through everything. I think
Alrighty.
it's a wonderful poem. And if you haven't read it yet, you gotta pick it up right now and read it.
I think that you should pick up this complete Tales and Poems collection.
That's even better.
Of Edgar Allan Poe's works.
Listen to this guy, he's intelligent.
73 short stories and 48 poems.
Very intelligent.
And I got this at it was the bookstore at the Moorestown Mall.
Oh, really?
Back in 2008.
I know where that was. It's not, I don't think it's there anymore,
No.
though.
It's very hard for you to find a bookstore in any mall, unfortunately.
There are some in some of the flea markets, though. Like,
Flea markets,
I know
yes,
that...
but malls,
Yeah.
no. Because even the one in the Monmouth Mall, the bookstore is now going to be detached from the mall itself.
That's our Raven up
Alrighty,
there.
thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel.
Forevermore.
Forevermore. If you like what you see, please subscribe forevermore. And if you really like what you see, please support us on our Patreon for as long as you are able and are interested in supporting us.
Yes.
For the money that we make will allow us to provide you, the viewer, with even more great content. For now and as always, we encourage you to keep reading.
Forevermore.